let's talk about another Holy Grail figure. Now, if you haven't checked out my last video, I guess it would have been 2 videos now. It's right up here. We did a pre-order about a Holy Grail figure, mine from Ascendance of a Bookworm. Now, that figure is coming in June, so I wanted to get my pre-order, again, check out the video. Wanted to get that pre-order video up so I could set those expectations and we could talk about it. But now, let's talk about a pre-order that I had so long ago that I don't actually remember ever actually doing it. But this is also a Holy Grail figure. Now, if I had to ask you a question, who is your favorite person from ReZero? Your favorite best girl, specifically from ReZero? Would you say it was Rem? Would you say Amelia? Maybe the elusive Ram? Or the charismatic Echadna? No. I would say it's none of those. It is none other than our lovely, lovely Betty Beatrice. She is our best girl. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this figure for me is a Holy Grail figure. Again, if you're new to figure collecting or you don't know what that is, it's a figure that you really just need in your collection that sets the tone and sets a very high standard for your figures overall. This one is that for me. Now, this figure is super easy to put together. It's her as the figure, a chair, and then the base. None of it clips together, so it's all kind of like wobbly. I'm holding it very gingerly because I don't want it to tip over. But the things about this figure that are so nice are the clean aesthetic all the way around. We're going to get into all those details for sure. But first, let's talk about this box. Quick overview on this box. It's just 4 windows, a face of her, nothing on the bottom, nothing on the top. The back has a couple other, photos of her. Nothing complicated on this box at all. It's a very just pink, fits Betty as a whole, fits her aesthetic, and that's it. Nothing there. Kadokawa did a fantastic job just making this box just what it needed to be, a box. So let's get into this figure. Let's talk about it because it's fantastic. So as we're talking about this figure, follow along on the B-roll here. What we're going to be looking at, I think, is the biggest and most important part of this figure is clearly Betty's face and her nestling puck. I think that is the most adorable thing on this figure, and it's very, very cute, and I love it. Right? The parts of her that I think really stand out that make this figure above some of my other ones is the small face and the cute nose with the small mouth and the butterfly eye. That becomes very difficult to do, I think, and they did a fantastic job on such a small figure sculpting that. I mean, it's not a big figure. Sorry, I'm just like deathly afraid this thing's gonna fall off, but it's not a very big figure, so to have that much detail packed in really makes for a really nice aesthetic, I think. And when you start to compare that along with her hair ornaments, with the 2 ribbons and the shading that they do, it's very nice. Now, again, sucker for good hair. This hair is very blocky, but in ReZero, she doesn't have a lot of standout hair, but what they did do is put a lot of definition into the curls. And I really enjoyed that. As it goes from this blonde into the pink at the ends, they did a fantastic job of setting that up and making it look really nice. I really like those details. And then the definition that's just carved in. Right? So as we move down, the shawl has a lot of great texture in the cotton around the edges, and the coloring is consistent and thorough throughout the whole top. And again, Puck looks beautiful, and they really did a good job sculpting his chest and his face. I feel like that's something they could have glanced over, but because they didn't, it really just brings this figure to another level. The other things I really enjoy is when we start to look at the leggings, it becomes nice. It's clean. The patterning and the line work in some of the folds really stand out, and I enjoyed that a lot. Then you have the shading on the dress itself and the foof, and it just looks soft. You know, the aesthetic of this figure and Betty herself is Lolita, right? And so you have a character that has a lot of frills, has a lot of billows in her outfit. And I think to craft that and to make the billows look um, really soft and really light is very difficult to do. I feel it's easier to make something that's flowy and organic than it is to make something that's billowy without it feeling blocky, right? And I really feel like they did a good job. And I think a lot of that has to do with the shading and the actual coloring that is on this. If you're looking at the ribbons, they fade from this like white to this pink back into the white, and you have the details all around the edges. And I really think that that really hits home. I'm using really a lot in this video, but I really think it's the best word to use. There's an extravagant amount of frill on this figure, and they just really hammered it all home, and that to me is a sign that they did a really, really good job. So as we're looking at this figure, the other thing to take into account is the chair. I think the embroidery with that gold through the chair and it's raised slightly to give it a little bit of depth, they did a good job with that. And it really starts to bring the characters to life, I think, when you give them more than just a plane. When you start to bring in a little bit of depth here, there, and the other, I really think that brings in a good perspective onto the figure. So the other thing I do want to say is her position in the chair is adorable. And as we're going to be taking a look at some of this B-roll, I just want to really point out that the overall look of this figure is nice. And I gotta say, the way the dress frills, the way it billows, the way it puffs, the coloration, all the way around, this ribbon with the butterfly on it, it's just adorable. And again, the chair with the raise is great. And as we come back, her face and Puck are just absolutely adorable. And it pains me to say this because it is a Holy Grail figure, but I don't think there's a single thing wrong with this figure. And that is why when I'm looking at my figures, this one is a Holy Grail figure for me. And again, if you haven't checked out that video with the Mine Holy Grail figure, please do. And while you're checking that out, subscribe. But this Holy Grail figure I've had in my collection for a while. It still sits at the top as one of my favorite figures. And I think that is something to be said. When a figure you've had for a long time continues to outperform new figures or pre-orders that you get, I think that really says something about the figure quality that you look for in your Holy Grail figures, right? But other than the beautiful fact of this figure, looking this nice and having all the high quality things that I look for in a figure, this one sits at the top and really sets the bar for my figure collection until I get my other figures. So with that said, I'm going to stop rambling. Let's look at a little bit more B-roll. And as always, you're cool.